All right. Hello, everyone. Give me the thumbs up and let us know that you can hear us first before we start chatting. Welcome, everybody. Just let us know if you can hear us, and um, I want to recognize a few people on here already that I see. Um, and I know you see my guest, the Big Prep. Happy to have her on tonight. So we're going to say hey to the girl Prep, Linda's Prepper Kitchen, Prepping by Faith, Ginger, and if I missed anybody, Pink Southern Girl. How's everybody doing tonight? So you can okay, we y'all they can hear us. All right, so I just wanted to say thank you for everybody joining tonight. We're going to talk about hurricane prepping and maybe any other related weather events that may pop up with the crazy weather we've been having lately. Um, we are in hurricane season right now. It started June the 1st. So as I've been looking the internet and hearing from other people, feedback from other people, we are in a very active hurricane season. So let me start by just welcoming the Big Prep with me, and I'm going to have her say hey to everyone, introduce uh, herself and her channel, and a little bit about what what her channel is about.
Hey everybody, I'm Cynthia from The Bigs Prep, and my channel is all about preparedness for all the different things that are maybe coming our way. I do believe that we are headed for the next Great Depression, and I do a lot of videos based on that. I have another channel called The Bigs Homestead Kitchen, where I do a lot of frugal meals cooked at home and just hang out in my kitchen with me. I do a lot of meal planning, meal prepping, and I break down our meals by almost to the cent so that you can still eat well on a budget. So those are the two channels.
All right. Well, check her out and go see her on her channel. So I'm curious about. I saw one of your videos that you recently had a power outage and a grid-like situation to kind of prep you. So
Mm-hmm.
tell me a little bit about that experience.
So 13 hours with no power. We walked through the door on a Friday evening at 5:30ish, and the power had been out since 5 o'clock. So the house was already super stuffy. There were no fans, and we had just had a horrific thunderstorm. The sky was green and purple and it was swirling. There were tornadoes in other parts of the forest, not our part, but it had knocked over one of those big scarecrow electricity holder things, one of the giant ones that's like 25 feet tall and has all the lines on it. It had knocked over that into another one. So they had to wait for the storm to completely be gone and get a brand new tower shipped in from wherever, which you have to give them kudos because they really did a good job. And then put the tower that fell over up and put the other tower back up and replace all the little, transformery things and all that stuff. So it was a big fat mess. We ended up getting power on the next morning at around 6:30ish, 7 a.m. We had just finished cooking breakfast. We were ready to eat outside, and the power came on, and I was like, thank you, God, because it was already 90 degrees outside and extremely humid, and there would have been loss of life, in my opinion, due to no power because it was so hot.
So how did you stay cool and what did you eat? Tell us a little bit about that.
So to stay cool, so I have water stored underneath my sink. We used some of that water to just wipe down. We immediately got less clothes on. In fact, in the first probably 5 seconds of the video, Mr. Big's walking around no shirt on. I'm like, dude, I'm trying to record. Put your shirt on. So I went on and put on like a linen dress, which is very breathable. We kind of got quiet and got still, and I was reading a book with a flashlight. Mr. B was also just kind of checking out some schematics for a project that he was working on at his desk, and we just got real still and quiet. Then when the power didn't come on by 7:30, we decided to get up and make some dinner. I have to tell you that the last thing that I wanted to do was crack out rice and beans and cook that. The last thing. I was not enthused at all. And you can see in the video my mental attitude. I had to stop and do a gratitude check because my mental attitude was a little poor at that moment. Thankfully, I had some bacon pre-cooked in the freezer, took that out, and we made some BLTs on homemade gluten-free bread that I had already baked. So I was very, very thankful for that. We had some potato chips. And then we just basically hung out on the porch until it got too dark and mosquito-y. So that was what and then we tried to sleep, which didn't go very well. We had the windows open. We're not used to having the windows open. We have a pond or a lake in our backyard, and it is full of frogs. And all night long, the frogs are so loud. So next morning, not feeling 100%. You can see in the video immediately my appearance is like very tired. My eyes were tired. My hair was like crazy. And we got up and made a huge breakfast on our outdoor. We have like an outdoor flat top. Huge breakfast. My son and his girlfriend were all set to come over. We had coffee, which was nice. So we were ready, but not. We found a lot of holes in our preps that we needed. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would be just a really eye opener, a slap in the face for a lot of people. A lot of people are not prepped, and you know, I had another hurricane video that I talked about. It's probably been about a month ago. The light was not good, but I did talk that night, and I was sharing my experience about the only hurricane that I've been through was when I was probably, it was before my teens. I know that I was living with my parents. And I remember, and it's still crazy how you remember those traumatic events. I mean,
absolutely.
I was trapped, or I was in a closet. My mom and dad made me go into a closet, and I had an emergency radio, and I was listening to the broadcast at that time. My dad was a first responder, so he actually had to go out it was Hurricane Hugo. And so he had to be out of that. Well, that wind and stuff, it busted our glass in our living room area. So it was a crazy. I had my grandmother there at that time, and the after effects of this was bad too. I remember getting in the car with my mom and dad and my brother and my grandma, and us driving around, and everything was devastated. Everything, like, it looked like ghost town, and nothing was open. Nothing. I mean, it just looked very desolate, and if we wanted, to get gas, if we wanted to get something, everything was shut down.
Correct. Yeah. So, it's pretty much how it is.
Yeah, so we gotta, make sure that we have what we need. Now, do you have like storm shutters and stuff
I do not. I do not have storm shutters on because I live in a mobile home. We do have double windows. We have a window on the inside and a window on the outside. I have lived in concrete block houses before where we had the plywood to put over and all that stuff. But what we have an advantage is we've had all of our tree work done. So our trees are far enough away from the house to where I don't really worry about putting plywood up. Also, I live in Marion County. Let me see if I can find this on my map over here. So this is the forest right here, this big green dot. So I live in the middle of the middle. So if we get a hurricane from the bottom, it's already probably a Cat 1 when it comes over. If we get a hurricane from the Gulf, same. If we get a hurricane from the east, same. So our county is what we call a receiver county. So people from all over Florida bring their animals. They evacuate to our county to shelter out the storm. So they'll open up the livestock pavilion for people's horses. People in Marion County are very welcoming when it comes to animals. They will welcome your horse or your dogs onto their farm. The World Equestrian Center will take horses, especially those $1 million horses.
Mm.
But all of our hotels will be full. The bad news is, being a receiver county, our resources go fast, like super fast. Also, here, 40 runs right through, Highway 40 runs straight through Florida from one side to the other, and 75 runs right up the middle. 95 is over here on the East Coast, but 75 runs all the way up through Florida out into Georgia. So
Wow.
that's Marion County. We have two major crossroads. So a lot of people are trying to get one way or get the other way for the storm. So locals know that if we have a storm coming, you need to get your gas like immediately so that they can get restocked and get people who are evacuating some gas. So that's a really important tip, is if you're a receiver county, you need to make sure that you have everything prepped so that there's plenty for people who are traveling through, trying to get out with their animals and their families.
Wow. In the comments, Rhonda said in 2004, she went through 4 hurricanes in 6 weeks.
Yes, ma'am. That was a wild year. We had Charlie, Francis, Isaac, and Jean. It was horrifying. I had the first one, Charlie, we were out of power maybe 12 hours. Francis, 11 days, and I had 3 little kids under like 7 in my house. And it was a treat. And then Jean came through, and Isaac went up the coast, turned around, and smacked back into Florida. It did a loop-de-loo out in the east and whoop, right back through. It was a lot. During Hurricane Francis, the men came. We lived right on Highway 40 at that time, and the men came to hook the power back up at 11 days. I ran outside and I said, if you guys hook my power up, I will make you coffee. I'll make you whatever you want, please. I have little kids in here. Please turn my power on.
Wow.
Yeah, they did.
So if have you read the reports though about the hurricanes that are supposedly going to hit, the ratio?
Yes, I have. Florida has been big and bad this year, and so when a hurricane comes, the state has to accept federal help, because if we don't, we're screwed. So the fact that Florida has been against many federal policies this year, I have a feeling there's a humbling moment coming when we have to ask for FEMA and all the help after a big storm like that. And they are predicting really bad storms this year.
Well, I don't know anybody in the comments have been kind of glancing back and forth, but maybe there's some that are in apartments, and that's going to be something to plan for now.
Mm-hmm.
I know there was the hurricane that I went through when I was young. I actually went through it, but when about a couple years ago or so, and I can't remember what hurricane that was. They were predicting a hurricane to come through my area,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't know how terrified I was, because I've never really experienced that since I was a child, and so you best believe I was getting. Back then, I was getting. This is before I prepped, so this must have been before
Mm-hmm.
2020, I called a friend and I was like, "Can I come over, because I'm living in an apartment and I don't have good installation and I'm alone." And
Mm-hmm.
I called a friend and she let me come over and stay over the night. Of course, praise God, it wasn't bad. It was, it ended up being a tropical storm.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it downgraded.
Yeah.
With all this warm weather, though, I'm just really concerned about the areas, and I'll be definitely praying for everybody's area. And I have a little guide here about storms, that I pray, and it talks about, the hurricanes are formed through the warm weather through the low pressure.
Mm-hmm.
So how I've prayed before is that the millibars will rise, 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 and that the bands in those storms will break apart, that the angels, um, sent by the Lord will tear those apart. And so, we have to take authority over that kind of stuff, prepare, but we also prepare as saying, it's not going to come around my way. And with these predictions, with it being a high amount of storms or hurricanes this season, we better be prepared.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the air after a hurricane is so unstable that we have tornadoes and thunderstorms that pop up that are just as bad as the actual hurricane itself. When you're looking at a hurricane forecast as well, you want to make sure that you're looking for the right front of the storm. So wherever the storm comes through, the right front quadrant is the most powerful. So if you're in a hurricane area and they're like, okay, you are going to get that as the right front side.
So have you ever been out in one where there was one coming, or you heard about one when you were out on the road?
So Hurricane Matthew, I was working at a doctor's office and it was supposed to miss our area completely. And so that must have been 2016-ish, maybe. I don't really know. But anyway, I was working at a doctor's office and the practice manager and the doctor came out and said, everybody needs to leave immediately. The storm turned inward. And we have about an hour for everybody to get home. So we all packed up our stuff. The doctor went out in the waiting room. He's like, you're fine. We got to go home. So that's exactly what happened. And we drove home in a tropical storm. We were without power for, I think, 5 days. Completely it was supposed to miss us. So everybody kind of took a nap on it. They didn't. And after a while, you kind of get worn down. People get alert fatigue, I guess, or whatever. So they don't take it seriously until the last second. And then all of a sudden everyone's running to the store and running to the gas station and complaining that there's nothing there. So, yeah.
So tell me what we were talking about, that people are going to want to, after a hurricane, want to go to a restaurant and want to get food because of their food. Tell us about that. Tell everyone about that, what you told me.
After Hurricane Irma, I work in the medical industry, and after Hurricane Irma, the incidence of food poisoning went through the roof because people were not prepared, and restaurants, not saying that all restaurants, but some restaurants had held food through the hurricane thinking that it was still okay to serve, and it was not. The incidence of foodborne parasites and also food poisoning went through the roof because people were eating food that had been held out at unsafe temperatures for too long. Another thing was a lot of people's wells were underwater. And if your well is underwater, you need to make sure that it's not underwater for X amount of days before you drink, because you're drinking parasitic water. So that's very important. Another thing that you need to be careful of is many municipalities will dump disinfectant prior to a large rainfall during a hurricane. So you need to prep your tap water in advance, because if you prep your tap water, fill your bathtub to drink out of or whatever, which I don't know why you do that, but anyway, drinking that, you're drinking an amount of disinfectant that is unsafe. And they normally would never do that, but prior to the storm, they will flood their entire sewer and water system for municipality water with that disinfectant to make sure that it dilutes during the storm. But prior to, you could get really sick drinking that municipal water if you're prepping even just a day before the storm. And they will not tell you that they're doing that. That's like a hush-hush thing.
Wow. That's why we got to be prepping that water. I noticed on your video, I was like, you go, girl, about the water around the house. I have that. I have already done that. Got some under the sink, near the fridge. I've got some in my bathroom, I've got some in my room. So I have plenty of, water to go in case that arises. But, with the hurricanes, unlike a tornado, hurricane, you have a little bit of time to prepare. We all on this channel, though, should be prepped and ready to go, right? Everybody?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's still some little areas that I need to prep. One being, the biggest thing is the generator, or like a power bank.
Yeah.
I haven't been able to get that since I've been out of work. But once I start working, that will be the number one thing that I get is a power bank, solar charger and stuff. I've got my phone charger, and I'm sure. Do you have plenty of those too? The the phone banks, yeah, those are
Yeah.
very important to keep too. I would have several of those. So,
I see a
any
comment from Rita saying I have bifocals, so having to drive over bridges when you are trying to evacuate wind can almost take you over the side. I will tell you that there is a large bridge connecting Highway 40 over the Silver River or the Ocklawaha River. It's one or the other. And it is huge and it is way above the trees. They close that if there's even tropical storm force winds. So when that happens, when we get a hurricane, especially Hurricane Irma, they will let you know that no one is coming over the bridge. So if you need help, you're on your own. If you don't get out of the forest and get to town or get to a safe place, they're not coming. So, yeah, they did that for Hurricane Irma. They said, if you have not evacuated the forest, we are not putting our fire trucks over the bridge, so don't call. Yeah.
right. So if we do get a hurricane, are you evacuating?
No,
No.
no. Hurricane Irma came over as a Cat 4. Wildest ride I've had so far being in Florida since 1993, even with the 4 hurricanes back to back in 2004. Irma was my by far scariest, and we actually slept in our shed because our shed is rated for a Cat 4. So I will not be leaving. No.
I would probably have to leave because, like again, my place is not done
Right.
well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'll have to make some calls.
Yeah.
Probably ahead of time.
Right. So that's a really good point, is make sure that you have a place to evacuate to, that you've contacted some friends or family and get out of Dodge. Yeah,
So
exactly.
that decision you have to make, I would say now before anything comes up. Are you going to stay or are you
Mm-hmm.
going to leave? And if you're going to leave, to make sure you have your bag ready. Maybe not a full out bug out bag, but just have stuff in there ready to go. That way, if you need to add a few items,
Mm-hmm.
then you can add closer to that time. But,
Right.
kind of go ahead and get that bag ready.
Get a bag
Um,
ready for your pets. And also now get a gas can full of gas, because if you're trying to evacuate and there's no gas anywhere, you do not want to be stuck on the highway in the middle of a hurricane. You don't. Put the gas in the back or wherever you need to put it, and that way you at least have another half a tank even to keep on going when other people are going to be stuck.
Well, during that time, those gas stations are going to be so full for people trying to leave. You're probably not going to get it.
Yeah.
It's going to
And
be out.
in Florida, it is slap dangerous. People are crazy here. Like, it's like the Wild West. If they want something and you have it, people got shot over water in down in Lakeland during Hurricane Irma. So the last case of water, and they were at a convenience store and somebody shot somebody else trying to get the last case of water, which, like, you wouldn't think that, but it wasn't even the apocalypse. It was just a case of water.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So, what else would you recommend for? I mean, I'm sure everybody, like I said, everybody on here is prepped, but if there's a few people that are still in the prepping process, what are some things they would have besides first aid kit, flashlight, water,
Mm-hmm.
bug out bag? What other essentials you think would be good to have along?
So, having a medical background, you do not want to wait until the day before a storm to contact your doctor's office for refills on your medication. Don't do that. Number one, the pharmacy is completely overwhelmed, and I used to work in a compounding pharmacy like back in the day, and we would get loads of compounds like, oh, I need it, the storm's coming. Dude, we're trying to get out of here. Like, this is not happening. I'm really sorry, but you're going to be without it. And your pet's medications too, make sure that you have those, because I ain't trying to stay late because you didn't prep properly. Call a few days ahead if you know a storm's coming. And a lot of times insurance companies will do an emergency override if you're like a week away, especially with blood pressure medication, heart medicines, things like that that are not controls. The insurance will let you do an emergency override and you can get your refill early. That's a big one. Don't try to call your doctor's office the day before the storm because we may not be there.
I would also, this kind of just popped in my head too about your cars.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead and make sure with all these situations with the car parts being unavailable, hard to get, go ahead and get all your car stuff. Make sure your oil's in your car. Of course, we have to keep at least a half tank, in our gas tank at all times, especially with these gas prices going on. Yeah, keep that going. Trying to think of some other things, but make sure your car's prepped.
Absolutely. Make sure that car is prepped. And also make sure it's cleaned out. I am the queen of going to a yard sale and leaving all the stuff in my trunk. So make sure that's cleaned out so that you can throw and go.
Okay. Let's see what everybody's saying in the comments here. I guess that it looks like everybody's just saying hi and kind of great advice on the medical refills, Cynthia Ginger said. So, yeah, check your battery. Oh, Die Bullfrog, which is Uncle Al, he said your battery. Yes, car battery is essential. Make sure that is good because you do not want a battery going out on a busy highway when you've got people in front of you and people in the back of you and you're trying to get out of Dodge.
Absolutely. Yeah. I see people joking about alligators in the comments. It's so funny because my friend from Seattle, my online friend, YouTuber, her name's Dit.Dot, Amanda. She's in Florida right now. She goes, I saw a wild alligator. You guys don't like fence those in or anything? It was just out. I'm like, no, we don't fence them in. They just live here.
Oh, wow.
We have alligators we have a pond on one side, pond on the other side, and there's alligators in both. Good for us is that they're really lazy. So they really don't like attack people like you see on the news and all that. As long as you don't bother them, they won't bother you. The most interesting thing I've ever seen is one time there was a hurricane that came in on the Gulf side, and the Tampa Convention Center had a great white shark swimming around where it's right on the water. And there was a great white just kind of making his way around. It was on the news. But I had been in the Tampa Convention Center the week before. It was kind of crazy.
That sounds crazy.
It was crazy.
Wow. Well.
Wild alligators. They are wild alligators. Don't bother
them. So do you have storm shutters on your windows? Because I'm thinking really seriously about getting some of those, just for maybe a tornado or just bad weather.
Right. We do not have storm shutters now, but that is in our 5-year plan. We're going to re-side our house with metal instead of the vinyl siding, and we're going to have shutters that actually will close, but that's not right now. Condo in Naples is right on the bay. Yeah. We hear the alligators all the time, especially in the spring when it's mating season. They sound like you're trying to start a chainsaw or a weed whacker. That's the same noise they make. Feeling frisky out there.
So I wanted to encourage everybody, through this weather. And I know everybody on here has heard that there will be blackouts. I mean, there's no doubt about there will be rolling blackouts, brownouts, and possible blackouts. So, why don't we warm up and maybe take a day and see what it's like to be without that? Cynthia didn't have no choice, with what happened with her, but we can at least try it out and see where we'll weekend. I know this was, I guess, last year. Where I was weak was I didn't have extra batteries, and I didn't know where my lights were, my flashlights. So I had to kind of fumble around. My battery to my phone, my cell phone was not charged up. I didn't, and so I was like, oh my goodness. And there was no reason for the power to be out that day. It was not raining, no winds. It was just very out of sorts. And the power company, I called them and I asked them, I said, well, why is the power out? And they said, we don't know. And that's
Okay.
kind of crazy too.
Right.
Um, go ahead.
So I noticed a question about looters. So that's a real thing. Linda's Prepper Kitchen said, good point, Nikki, absolutely right about looters out during a hurricane. 100%. We, in 2004, we had a generator and we ran it for 1 hour a day. We weren't sure how long the power was actually going to be out. And their gas was gone. They had reversed the highways down south and bringing people up through the county, and it was completely insane. Um, so we ran the generator for 1 hour a day, and we literally had to stay outside with the generator to make sure that no one stole it, because people were getting their generators stolen. People were, it was crazy. Day 8, I took the children to the Winn-Dixie in the forest. There's a Winn-Dixie one. And in the parking lot, there was FEMA trucks handing out ice and supplies and water and food. And I witnessed with my own 2 eyes a fist fight in the FEMA truck line for people who thought that other people were cutting in front of them to get what they thought was coming off of the truck. They had limited amount of supplies every day, which I immediately got my children. They weren't even allowed to leave the car. I didn't leave the car. We were just trying to figure out what was going on. I just skinned out. We didn't need anything that badly to risk my children getting hurt or, injured or whatever.
Okay.
So looters are real, and that is a real thing. If you're going to have a generator, you need to make sure that it is not stealable. Ours is actually welded to a trailer frame, and we hooked the trailer to the actual shed last time for Irma. So people could not have stolen it.
So this is a good question that came up. Do you have an opinion as to whether or not the rolling blackouts will affect those with medical issues? We have filed paperwork with the power company due to my wife being on oxygen at night. Wow.
So within an hour and 20 minutes of the power being out here in the forest, there were 2 separate sets of ambulance and fire truck. And I thought to myself, like, such a heavy heart and prayer, just thinking people are going to die if they do this rolling blackout thing and they don't give people notice. They've got to give people notice or people are going to die. And that scares me and it makes me very sad. There are people in their homes providing skilled nursing care to loved ones who probably should be in a hospital or a home, but we're not set up for that anymore. So the caregiver learns to give expert care to their person. They can, do a urine cath and they can do, advanced feeding tubes and things like that. But how many mothers are taking care of children and children are taking care of parents and, husbands and wives and all that thing that need advanced medical care that rely on electricity? It saddens me, truly.
Yeah, because isn't the generators and the power banks run so long before they go out?
Right. Exactly. They've got to give people notice or people are going to die. And that makes me horrified and sad that we live in the United States of America. And that's not that we have to think about something like that. In Venezuela, when the power went out for 3 days, they lost 10% of their elderly because they just couldn't hack the heat, honestly, and everything else.
Well, they're already really giving us the heads up that there definitely is going to be blackouts. And
I know.
yeah, that's why I'm definitely trying to prep more as I get the money, and we should be doing that. Just as we get money, as things come in, get what you can, little by little, But the important things first, Other things, I mean, we could go without food. It's just the water. And of course, the oxygen. We need oxygen to live. So, anything we could do to prepare for these things that are coming. Now's the time. Now's the time because it's like kind of quiet.
Are the blackouts going to be on the East Coast? I think they're going to be everywhere, to be honest. Like, I just don't think there's any getting around it. The signaling from the mainstream media and everywhere is just insane. I got an email from my cable company, not cable, but internet. I don't have cable. Internet company saying that we may be experiencing unknown outages and how to prepare for that with no internet. And I was like, well, this is cool. I'm going to keep this and do a little video about it because
yeah, I've got to watch that video.
yeah, it was just a random sort of email that came through and I happened to open it and I was like, oh, well, what do you know that I don't?
Yeah, they're basically giving you a heads up again.
Yeah.
And they're giving these little hints about stuff, about the blackout.
Yeah. And I was watching a really cool video the other day that all the Walmarts are installing Skynet. And that's a huge, expensive thing. So what does Walmart know that we don't? So another thing to think about may be, how do I go without internet and still run my life? Which, I mean, at that point, I'm not paying bills. Because I don't know. I've paid my bills on the internet since like 2005. So I don't know. How do you get that? I don't know.
Let me read this comment real quick. Nikki says, concentrators are different than oxygen tanks. Oxygen tanks does not need power.
So his wife may have some sort of portable oxygen or something like that, like one of those ones that has the pump that goes in, that plugs in. Yeah. Okay.
Well, all I can say is be diligent in your prepping and look in those weak areas. I know I do have some areas I've got to work on, and hoping and praying that I have the time. But I'm going to be very, as soon as money comes in, things that are on the top of the list, those are coming first.
Yeah.
And water being one, two, the power bank or the generator, that's definitely. I don't know about y'all's area, but I know in my area we have it's called the Tractor Supply.
I love Tractor Supply.
Well, they have it where you can put stuff on layaway. Ooh. So I'm going to be looking into that, probably getting a generator or something from them and putting it on layaway. That way I can pay a little bit when the money starts coming in from my new job. Then pay that thing off and work on something else,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, for those of you who have generators, make sure that they are not stealable, because people will come and take your stuff quick. And then usually when the storm's over, they hawk it or they sell it online, because everybody will have generator, and they won't know where it came from, so you'll never see it again.
What's been on my mind too is, when the blackouts come, how long is it going to last? Is it going to last a couple of days, 3 days, a week? I was sitting there thinking about that as well. I'm like, what do I need now? If a hurricane thank you, Kelly, were to come today, what do I need? And I thought about getting those little snack bars, those energy bars, by like one, or some of those good ones that last a long time.
Yeah, like the Cliff bars.
The Cliff bars.
Yeah.
They make my favorite one is the one, and they make the mini size. So sometimes I don't want a full bar, but you have to snack. Think about the snacks, and there's a lot of areas to cover when you're prepping, especially for the hurricanes. Or I don't know if anybody in the channel has ever experienced an earthquake. I've only experienced like just nothing really major. My bed was shaking, and that's about it.
Yeah. I like Ginger's theory. My guess is that blackouts will be timed so people are not out of power for too long. I'm really hoping that that's what happens, is that, they shut this grid down for the morning, and then this one for the afternoon, and this one over here and that one over there, so that people can at least, get some respite. I don't know what that's going to look like. I don't even think the people who are going to do the blackouts know what it's going to look like. They've probably just been told that they have to do it, and then they're just going to do it.
And the girl preps was got my thoughts up. Thinking about entertainment for you and the kids, because the kids will get bored
Woo!
quick.
And they're used to being on that game.
Yeah,
The
kids,
game.
they love their games and
Mhm.
TV and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. So
Yeah. Yeah.
gotta get.
I missed YouTube when we had no power for 13 hours. I was like, I can't catch up with none of my friends now. My husband's like, really? I'm like, yes, really?
Well,
Yeah, I've
well,
never really been through an earthquake. Florida does not have earthquakes, thank the Lord. We got enough. We got alligators.
yeah, and I don't have alligators here, so each area is different, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
everybody's got their something.
and make sure your furry babies are prepped too. And I said a little prayer for you, Cynthia. Sorry about your
I know.
recent loss of her little furry family member.
I know. She was fine on Wednesday, and I took her to the vet Thursday because she was real sick, and they said, well, she'll probably live another 3 days, and then that was it. Because she had acute liver failure. It happens a lot in tiny dogs. So she was 10 and I had her since she was 5 weeks old, and she was just the love of my life. And I'm sad that she's gone. So sad. So sad. But my friend reached out to me. Her husband works at an animal rescue, and they are having animals turned in record numbers because people can't afford to keep them. So she said, I know it's awful soon, but would you think about adopting a dog if through no fault of their own, maybe they would need a home? And I was like, are you kidding me? Of course I will. Like, as I'm like crying, like, yeah, of course. Yeah. So I know God's going to work in my life.
Yes, he is. Well, I guess I'm going to close the broadcast. I wanted to thank everybody that came on tonight. Thank you most of all, my guest Cynthia and friend. She is excellent in speaking to us about what she went through and some things to think about. She's had given me some things to think about. I may have to watch this channel back myself to hear what she said. Hope everybody took some good notes. And just again, I wanted to thank everybody for being on tonight. And check out Cynthia's channel, The Big Prep. She's got 2 channels. So we just hope that everybody has a good night. And I'll say good night to everybody.
Good night, everybody. Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks, Charlotte.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.